Welcome to ArtShare, the podcast for artists by artists, with your hosts, Brigid Ashwood, Ash Evans, and Mary Layton.
Welcome back to another episode of ArtShare Podcast. Today we're continuing our discussion about Kickstarters and crowdfunding in general. Let's see, we wanted to talk a little bit more about choosing rewards that you're going to give to your backers. Now, if you're doing a particular product, a tangible product, well, obviously, it seems kind of obvious that that would be one of the rewards, would be at least one copy of the product. Let's see.
You can have a range of product reward tiers too. I think having a spectrum to fit other people's budgets is imperative. I mean, I have one starting at $1 going all the way up, just in case, Lady Gaga decides she wants a unicorn plush. We have like a $5,000 level pledge just in case. But having, variety helps you. But I feel like having too many low dollar amounts can hurt you, because then you get nickeled and dimed and, you sticker your way to the top with just like a cheap thing. So there's
I agree. I agree. I've seen people do like 1, 3, 5, 7. I'm like, no.
Don't cannibalize your own sales. That's just foolish.
Right.
Yeah. And from a backer point of view, if there are too many levels, it's way too confusing. And it's, I like it when as a backer, I like it when it's pretty simple. Give $1 if you just like the person or you like the idea of the project, but you don't necessarily need to have the product. Maybe $5 and you get a little something, a postcard or something saying thank you. And then get into the levels where you're actually giving the product or multiple copies of the product, that sort of thing. It's always better if you keep it simple, stupid, I guess.
Yes.
The way to really think of it is keep it simple, because you don't want to overwhelm your backers.
Right. Agreed. That said, I think it's a really good idea to have the $1 and the $5 pledge for people who just want to throw a little money at you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, they don't, necessarily want a particular reward. I think another thing to keep in mind is that you can let your backers know that if they want a custom package just for them, that you can do that. Just kind of like Etsy, you can create a custom package with different combinations of things, because sometimes you don't know what the combination is going to be that's going to appeal to your backers. They'll tell you. And I remember I got lots of requests for people because I had offered rewards such as my coloring book and cross-stitch pattern. I had a downloadable PDF cross-stitch pattern done by a company I work with who was really generous to provide that to me. And found out that very frequently people wanted like 2 calendars, 1 coloring book, and the cross stitch pattern. And I hadn't thought of that. I had like 1 calendar, whatever. So they'll tell you when you can create them little custom packages. Additionally, one thing I would say to consider is creating a digital reward too, if it suits whatever you're working on. Like the cross-stitch pattern for me, that was huge. A lot of our backers came from this cross-stitch pattern. And I know, Ash, you didn't you do some digital rewards, or were they just like thank yous?
They were freebies. Yeah, but they could have been considered a reward. But yeah, I just did little wallpapers, little desktop wallpapers with the picture of, the artwork for Muni and one for Stormy, and we've done like a downloadable birth certificate, like everyone can just download a birth certificate for their plush, and just little things like that. And it doesn't cost any money to ship, because you start throwing junk in there and your shipping weight goes up too. Right. So, and a lot of it, I wanted to try to make mine where you just don't get junk that's just going to end up in the trash. I wanted things that people would actually use or enjoy, and not just, you know, throw this in here, throw this in here, throw this in there that you get free. Because postcards are nice and stuff, but I don't know how many people actually either use them. I mean, if they frame them, it's great, but most of the time that's just like stuff you pass out at a convention and stuff in the trash. So I try to do usable items like that. But digital's great. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, and you gave them as freebies, but I think that actually it would be totally valid to have it be a digital package that was part of a backer reward too. Like that's, you know, it could be a downloadable coloring book, and, you know, or a wallpaper for their computer or something. I don't know. So that's something to think of. Anything that you can offer as a reward to bump up that backer's pledge that doesn't cost you anything in shipping is a great idea. So we were talking a little bit about, like, Mary, you're a frequent backer of projects. What attracts you when you look at a Kickstarter?
A lot of the projects I've backed have been people I know. So I'm familiar with them, I'm familiar with their work, but I have backed a few that I just sort of stumbled upon, or somebody tweeted about it and I wasn't familiar with the person, but the project looked interesting, and yeah, I've done that. The most attractive thing about a Kickstarter project is your presentation, how you fill in your information on your page, whether you've got you don't have to have a little video. It's nice when you do, but if you've got a lot of good information in your bump on the page about what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, what the process is going to be, interesting things like that will attract someone to pledge who may have just stumbled upon you. Yeah, having good information on your page. Imagery is great. Lots of nice images of what you're doing. That helps, especially if you've got your little bullet points on your image about what you're doing. That way the people who just scan stuff, they've got something to see as well. And they put detailed information in for those who, like me, like to read stuff. Yeah, that sort of thing attracts me as a buyer. And of course, like I said, people I know, I always try to throw them a few dollars, even if I don't get the full project that they're doing, the full product that they're doing. I'll always kind of throw them some quids.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. That reminds me, a couple of tips really quick for videos in particular. I use Animoto, and I have iMovie, and I can use iMovie too, but Animoto is so simple. It's Animoto, and they have like a free version where you can do, I can't remember if it's like a minute long or whatever. It's like a minute and a half or something like that, where you can do a free version video that looks really professional. They have templates that are really customizable music. I actually pay for Animoto, like a professional account, because it's that awesome and I use it that frequently. So if you don't know how to use iMovie or something, I guarantee you can use Animoto. So you might want to go and check that out. If you still can't figure that out, go to Fiverr, Fiverr.com, and look for somebody who can make you a video. And guess what? They're probably going to go use Animoto or some like software. But if they can figure it out and you can't, and you can just pay them for $25 or because not everything on Fiverr is $5, by the way. There's a lot of upgrades. But so on Fiverr, you can find all kinds of things for not only to help make your Kickstarter, but to help promote it. So you can find somebody to make your video for you if you don't know how. If you want some flashy graphics, you can probably find somebody on Fiverr to do that. You can also find people who will tweet or put up Facebook messages about your Kickstarter if you want to. I don't know how helpful that is for Kickstarters. I know I've done it for book promotions, people that have like book lists of, that people have opted into and signed up for, and it's been actually not too shabby. So check that out. Other places to promote. I know for me, when I'm promoting my Kickstarters, I call it like, it's like, oh shoot, it just flew out of my head, but it's like basically I'm calling in like favors. It's like it's the season of calling in favors, right? This is terribly obnoxious. I send emails to my friends and everybody, and I think ahead of time what I want to do, and I send them, and you guys got this from me. I was like, please, share this. Please try to think of it a couple times a week. Here's some suggested language for Facebook. Here's some suggested language for Twitter. And I made sure it was 140 characters, that it included like the @ symbol for my own account so that I would see it when it went up, that it had my little Smart URL, either use Smart URL or Bitly. I know, Ash, you've been using Bitly, right?
Yeah, I did Bitly, tiny URL, something that makes it shorter and easier to,
right.
share.
I like Smart URL because it gives me a lot of analytics, and also it's kind of neat because you can like change it if you need to. Like the URL will remain the same, and they'll do everything on their end and redirect it if you need to change where it redirects to. So I like that a lot. But then every time you talk about it, put that URL in there every time you talk about it online. And also another pet peeve I would make too, pet peeve of mine, is that when you're posting about your project to Twitter or Facebook, I try to use advertising language and more neutral language so that it makes sense when it's retweeted or when it's shared, okay? If I say, my Kickstarter is doing so great, thank you guys, then when Mary retweets that for me, it says, my Kickstarter is doing so great, thank you guys, keep it up. And they think it's Mary's, okay? So if instead I say, wow, this rainbow unicorn is, really popular. This is awesome. Get yours today. Please share. That's more neutral so that everybody who retweets it, like, we don't have this weird confusion, because there's always somebody's grandma or auntie on Facebook who's like, oh, Mary, I didn't know you're doing this, guitar metal coloring book. I'm so surprised. You're like, I'm not.
Hey, that's a good idea.
Can you not track like where this came from? So I think that neutral language, I think, think in terms of advertising and what's going to make it easiest for your fans and the people who want to share your information to share it.
Yes, and picking the timing of your project is essential also for success. You need to take that into consideration as well. I had a failed Kickstarter, and the reason I was basically told the reason it failed was it was right at the end of summer where everyone was on vacation, and then it was back to school. It was a terrible time to have a Kickstarter. You notice everybody and their brother is on Kickstarter right now promoting projects, and it's because it's tax return season. People are flush with cash and they are ready to make it rain. So you also need to think about, in terms, if you're doing overseas manufacturing, especially in China, you have to know what their observances and holidays are too.
Oh, yeah.
I would never recommend having a project where your items are being delivered in February. And that is because it's Chinese New Year. All of the factories shut down. And they shut down anywhere from 15 to 30 days. And what happens is there's a backup in customs for weeks before that, because everyone's trying to get their stuff in before. And then there's backup in customs for weeks and weeks after that as well, because it's all been held up until that point. So timing is everything, and knowing your audience for different things too. I'm on a Kickstart promote page, and one person's doing this gorgeous fine art book, and I'm doing a plush, and somebody else is doing stickers. Our audiences are very different, and you need to know who would be buying this product. You need to visualize your buyers in your mind and know who you're going to target before you try to go after them, because hope is not a business strategy. Okay, that is not how this works. So you need to know who you're going to be selling to, because while there are overlaps with my project and Stephanie's project or 78 Tarot's project, we all have mutual fans. Since the products are very different, we have different fans as well. So you need to know.
Right. But that's also a great place to cross promote. And so reaching out respectfully to other Kickstarters, and I don't mind that at all. Like, so actually, if another Kickstarter reaches out to you and asks if you want to cross promote, don't be a jerk about it. If you don't want to, just say, oh, no thanks, it's not a good fit for me or whatever. Okay. Because it can be touchy, because you know what? Your backers are hearing a lot from you while you're doing this Kickstarter. It's basically a begathon for a month, okay? And it can get really old. So be patient with people. And if somebody messages you and wants you to share their Kickstarter, if you don't want to, that's fine. And you can just say, you know what, it just doesn't fit into my marketing strategy for this month, but I wish you the best of luck. And actually, I reached out to a few people myself. I don't think you should be afraid to, but use, respectful language when you're reaching out to them. And everybody was very nice. Most people shared, and I shared theirs in return. And one person didn't want to, and they were very polite and nice with their, they were like, I really feel like I'm going to wear out my welcome with my people. And so I just don't think that I can right now, but good luck to you. And I was like, cool. And that's the end of that. But also, if you've done a previous Kickstarter that was a success, don't forget to reach out to those people, especially if it was the same sort of thing, like with my calendar. First thing I did was go and message that group of people through Kickstarter website. I did it as like a email blast and an update saying, hey, the new Kickstart for the new calendar is live. You bought it last year. Want another one? And so right away, we got almost funded just from that. So don't forget that. And don't be hesitant to call in those favors, but make sure that you understand that if you bother and pester all your friends and colleagues to share this project, that turnaround is fair play, and they're going to come and bring it up to you at some point. So
about reciprocity and exposure, because that's what you're asking for. This is when exposure is good. Ask your friends to share your project, but you have to do the same thing in return when it's their turn. Just keep that in mind when you're calling in favors, and warning your fans ahead of time is great. I told my fans, I think about 2 months ahead of time, I said, this is what we're going to do. We had an event leading up to the launch, and what happened is within seconds of it launching, I had $500.
Right.
And it's like putting $1 in the guitar case on a street corner. Once that money's in there and you get the pumps primed, I was 61% funded in one day. Right. And it was because I worked my tail off so that everyone knew it was coming out. They were ready. They had saved up for it. I let them preview all the tiers in the event so they knew exactly what it was, how much it was going to cost, everything. And have somebody look over your campaign for you. They have an option to share a not live project. It gives you a link that you can share with friends. I know Brigid looked over mine. Amy looked over mine. My husband looked over mine. Everyone, because they'll see things that you wouldn't necessarily see. I stared at my project for 16 and a half hours straight. I missed stuff because it just
have somebody edit it at the very least, because you're going to have typos that you're just not going to see. Yes.
I had Patreon patrons watch the video and make sure that it was working properly on different mobile devices and everything else. I had everyone do that, and it's nice that they have like a little link that you can preview a project for people to, leave comments and feedback prior to your launching, because aren't you going to feel stupid if it was like unicorn hush without a P, and just silly things like that make you look not professional. I treated mine like a business pitch. Like if I was walking into Shark Tank going, this is what I want to make, this is what it's going to cost. Like you can't just be like, yeah, can I have money? Like we're just gonna do this. And it'll be
and I want you to basically pay my bills for the next year while I sort of try to maybe hash out this idea. No.
Fund my life project are forbidden actually from Kickstarter too. So just keep that in mind. But
that reminds me about something about the reward levels, is that make sure you look, and I can't quote this right now because Kickstarter's terms of service changes, but they don't allow like wholesale. Okay. The last time I did it, they don't allow a wholesale. So if you want to put up like a wholesale package, you can't unless they've changed that. So double check. But you could do like a package where you're saying like, 10 copies of this calendar at a steep discount. Okay. But if you're calling it like, because they don't want you selling through Kickstarter. So it's tricky, and that you can't do more than, I think, 10 copies of an item.
That's not true.
No?
I have over 100 people getting just like a single individual unicorn.
No.
They can't buy more than like lots of 10?
Right. That's what I mean.
Oh, my maxed out at like 5, so I don't know.
No. I mean, like if you do a reward level where you have 10.
Like a bundle of 10.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the limit. It was the last time I did it. But like I said, double check the Kickstarter terms of service, but make sure you pay attention to that because they're serious. You also can't offer coupons as a reward. And you can't offer anything that even looks like or could be construed as a coupon. So you might have a cute argument for why it's not really entirely totally a coupon. They don't care. You can't do it.
Shut your project down, and then won't you be sad?
Yes.
I made that mistake. I didn't realize that you couldn't just like offer a coupon. It wasn't even a reward. I was just like,
I know it wasn't.
Great. And then I was like, oh crap, you can't do that. So
yeah.
Be aware, because that would really just suck if you got full funding and then Kickstarter's like, sorry.
Yes, that would really, really suck because then you're done.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, so then actually, so while you're spamming everybody that asking them to help you promote this project, you will be receiving tons and tons and tons of really obnoxious Kickstarter spam. My advice is ignore it. Some of it will come through Kickstarter, and I think you can report within Kickstarter that it's like spam, right? And other stuff, they'll hunt you down. I got stuff, Facebook messages, I got emails. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I've gotten through the contact form. I've had private messages on my personal like Facebook account. I've had them direct message me through Instagram. I've had them direct message me through LinkedIn, Twitter, Kickstarter. We had a Chinese company just today try to snipe our manufacturing from our current manufacturer, saying, oh, we'll give you this discount. Like, I mean, seriously, like, no, thank you.
Yeah. I had some calendar. They said they were a calendar publisher, but they weren't really. Really what they were was sort of like a Redbubble for calendars, but not even. It was more like what are those t-shirt places where you have to vote?
Oh,
like that for like calendars. And they were like, oh, you should submit this to us and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, why? And this was after my Kickstarter was funded. And so usually I have a rule of not engaging, but this was just so silly that I wrote them back and was like, do you see that my project is funded? And so I'm going to do this. And and this was like this past year too. And I was like, and did you see that I'd already done one before? And it went as well. Why should I go with you to have it voted on before it gets manufactured when it's a sure thing now? Why would I do that? So whatever. So ignore that or report it as spam. I mean, I guess there might be a few of them that maybe, but you're going to have to spend money. And so think hard about the money that you spend in order to make money, because that's bad news.
And doing it right out of the gate where you don't have any analytics on where your backers are coming from initially is kind of foolish. If you really want to start pushing, I would pick the halfway point, because you're aware of where most of your backers are coming from. The Kickstarter gives you a nice little like rundown of where they're coming from. Like 80% of my backers came from Facebook. So of course I'm going to concentrate any ad revenues there, because that's where 80% of my project is coming from. So don't just first day spend like $1,000 on advertising.
Right.
Wow. You might not need to. You might not need to do anything. I mean, I'm lucky. I actually haven't spent any money on promotion yet. I'm kind of saving it for like the last Hail Mary should I need to. So don't cut yourself off at the knees when you don't even really know how it's going to go.
Right.
Or if, I hate to say it, if it's like 5 days left and you're not, you're only like 10% funded, just give up the ghost.
Yes.
You don't want to just funnel a lot of money into advertising on something that's obviously just not going to happen. And I don't know what people's philosophies are, if it's better to just cancel a project or have a failed one. I don't know what's worse, but I mean, they show it either way. Because I've seen ones where they weren't successful and they canceled it before it ended because they knew they weren't going to do it. And then like myself, I just let it roll over. I was like, well, that ain't happening, but I just kind of left it and went, oh, well, lesson learned.
Yeah. I have to say, I mean, this is anecdotal. I haven't done any research on this, but from my own experience, I would say if a project doesn't fund in a week, I find that very, I would be concerned. If it isn't funded by halfway through the month, then I would have to say it probably won't. That it's in my experience from watching and from what I've been doing is that most of the excitement comes in the beginning. There are some people, like if a project is super, super close to funding by the time's almost up, there are a ton of Kickstarter angels that will go in and just like pay the last little amount to kick it over because they just want to see you succeed. But I wouldn't rely on that. And you can't back your own project. So if you think that you want to swoop in at the last minute and do that, you better have your mom available on the other end of the internet with a credit card that you can pay her back because you can't do it yourself. But yeah, I agree with you. Know when to quit, because if it's, I really think that within the first couple of days, you're going to have a good idea. And Kickstarter will give you the trajectory.
Well, and there are other softwares that you can use that actually projects your end income. I think KickTrack does it, and there's another one I can't recall off the top of my head, but there's actually software that does analytics off the Kickstarter based on your backers and momentum. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's going to vary by day and by how many backers you get that day and stuff. But yeah, you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them, because sometimes, I mean, a lot of projects don't get funded, and it's not because it's a bad project or it's not because, your product's dumb. Like I said, with me, the timing was bad and I just didn't think about it because I don't have children. I didn't know. I forgot about back to school.
Right.
I like back to school because it's quiet in my neighborhood.
Right.
So you have to, timing is everything. And if you do fail, it might not be a reflection on you or your product. You might not have the fan base. It might have just been bad timing. Your presentation might not have been good. A lot of projects, they say 80% of successful projects have a video. You don't necessarily have to be in it. You could have the project and do a voiceover, or you could just do music. Mine is just text and music. Because there are international backers that might not necessarily understand what you're saying. There are hearing impaired people that can't hear you anyway. So having text accompanying that is really helpful. So keep that in mind. But they do say ones that have videos are far more likely to be funded than ones that don't.
I agree, but I think videos that are nothing more than the person putting on the Kickstarter sitting there as a talking head just talking about it are boring, and I want to kill myself. Like, no. So mine was just the images from the calendar and then just a little bit of text and then some cool music, and that was it. And I agree with you, because you have to think about the different demographics of whether do you guys speak the same language? Are they hearing impaired? Right. And also just your boring head sitting there rambling, forget it.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't really care about you, to a degree. They're not buying your personality; they're buying your product. It's not a brand on Kickstarter; it's a product.
Right.
I think so. You need to kind of think.
Oh, I totally agree, because the brands are on different websites, right? We're on Kickstarter because we're not a brand. But I'm going to be the jerk and say that sometimes it is you, and your product sucks and your presentation sucks and you didn't do your homework. And sometimes some people need to like really look hard at that and understand that. And, is this just wish fulfillment? Like, truly, there are some scenarios where, and I agree with you, Kickstarter has put things into place to try to help with that and make it so that it really is about this product or project that you want to bring to the people. Okay. But even though they do that now, there are still some things that slip through the cracks, and there are some things that people have done that, they think it's a product or a project that's worthwhile, but really it's much more of a vanity pipe dream, and they just need to move on. And there's different places for that. That's when you call up your auntie, or you could do GoFundMe. Well, not the GoFundMe one. I don't mean to disparage GoFundMe. I just mean that that's a little more open-ended than Kickstarter is. You know, GoFundMe is a little bit more open to the idea, I think, of dreams and stuff that people want to work towards. If it's not a fully formed idea yet or in your mind, then maybe Kickstarter isn't the place for you, because that's
Patreon, if you're an
Patreon.
artist.
There you go. That's a good place. Yeah, that's definitely a good one. Okay, so moving on, other bullet points I have here are communication problems and cancellations. I think cancellations is important.
It's such a nut punch every time. I just feel like garbage. You can't take it personally. I do. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I get all upset. I get up peeing on my stupid phone, which is terrible. It's like, it's fine. Don't do that to yourself. But cancellations, they cancel for a number of reasons. Either they found another project they want back. You're fully funded and they feel like you don't need their money. Or they overdid their budget, or, you know, insert excuse here. Maybe they just got all caught up in it, or they wanted a stretch goal that they think they're not going to get. Cancellations are going to happen. That's why you kind of want to don't just rest on your laurels when you get funded. Mm-hmm. I wanted like a $500 cushion minimum to make sure at the end people don't, you know, just bail out, because that could tank your project. You have to have full funding when it closes out, or it's done. It doesn't matter if you were completely funded up until the day before. If it all drops out at the last minute, you're not funded. You know what I'm saying? Like, if everyone cancels their pledge on the last day, you're not going to get funded.
Right.
Cancel a pledge.
Yeah. I remember reading some articles about the sort of the weirdness about how that happens. It's like what happens is that they credit you as having run a successful Kickstarter, like it's considered succeeded, but then actually the money drops out and you have like the option to like refund everybody and not do it or something like that. Yeah. I can't recall exactly, but yeah, that's rare. Like it's not like,
it's a freak anomaly.
Right.
But it can happen. Like, I'm just prepared for the worst of everything, just because I like every contingency planned out for me. But yeah, you're going to get cancellations. Lots of projects get cancellations. I think I've had over $1,000 in cancellations from the beginning of my project till now. And they come in drips and drabs where they'll either downgrade a pledge or just cancel it all together.
And it's not personal. I mean, it's just, you have to consider there's all different people out there with different things going on in their lives, and there's different reasons why they need to cancel it, you know? So yeah, it's not personal, but
people up their pledges too. So that's also really helpful. I've had 1 million people up their pledge. Like, they're fantastic. Like, they've just been like, oh, we're so close to a stretch goal. Like, every person on this thing, like, you guys both backed my project because you're awesome.
Yes. I was just thinking, if that were true, if that you literally had 1 million people. Sorry.
Right.
That would be amazing, Ash. Be like, we're going out to dinner on you.
Yeah, no kidding. No, but your pledge amount is going to fluctuate. It's kind of like the stock market. You're just going to have really good days and you're going to have really bad days. Yes. And you just kind of need to think big picture with it rather than pledge by pledge. Because they do have a handy app that notifies you every time you get a pledge or get a cancellation or an adjustment.
That way leads to madness, though. They're like refresh. I
get up at like 3 a.m. and I ping. I'm like, oh my God. So prepare not to sleep like for the duration of your Kickstarter.
Right?
Because I have not.
And on that note, we're done with another episode. So please let us know how you liked this episode. And if you have any more questions for us regarding crowdfunding or Kickstarters or anything like that, please send them in to us at art-share.org. You can send us questions there, or you can find us on Facebook under, I don't know, search for Art Share Podcast. You'll find us. And it's always in the links as well. So thanks. See you next time.